welcome to the podcast, Nancy.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm so happy to be here finally after
Uh,
we've been planning for so
yes,
long.
we finally got the stars to align. We were just talking about
Yes.
how it's taken a while, but we did it.
Yes, we are here now.
Yes. So tell us about yourself. I'd love for you to introduce yourself because I know you went through your own journey
Mhm.
and it's inspired you to do the amazing work that you do today to paying it forward. So I'd love to hear about it and have the listeners hear about it.
Sure, sure. So, my name is Nancy. If you can't tell, I have a little bit of a New York accent still. I'm from New York. Currently living in Myrtle Beach at the beach right now. And yeah, I would say it's been about 5 years that my husband and I started on, we had our own fertility journey. We married late. We married, I think we were 40 when we got married, or 42, no, 40. And, we were coming up on, I was ready to, like, oh my goodness, we need to have our babies. Like, I've been waiting my whole life to have these babies that I thought I would have when I was 21,
Yeah.
like my mom did. And life just didn't turn out that way for me. So
You guys, I just have to say, she
yes.
looks 30, okay?
Oh, thank
I'm looking at her
you.
like 40. She got married at 40. She looks 30.
Yes, I'm 46 right now. I'm 46 and a
You look
half.
so young.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks. Um, yeah, so we got married late, and kind of we were trying a little bit even beforehand, kind of like unofficially. And nothing had happened, but I kind of had it in my head for many years. And I think it's because I was getting older that I kept saying, like, oh, well, when I'm gonna have a baby, I'm probably gonna need IVF. And I probably kind of told myself that too much, because I think that just kind of like stuck into my subconscious, as that was the only way it was going to work for me. Which is, hey, that's things turn out how they turn out. So we were trying. We went through multiple egg retrievals. We went through multiple transfers. And one day, a nurse that am friends with told me about embryo adoption, and I was like, wait, I've been a fertility coach for 2 years. I've never heard of this term embryo adoption before. What are you talking about? Like, what is this all about? And I couldn't believe that I didn't know about it. And then she told me, she said, yeah, when couples have like leftover embryos that, they've already had all their children, and they don't want to they don't want to keep them frozen forever, or, they're done creating their family. She said, they donate them to people. And I was just blown away by this fact. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So I was like, we need to make an appointment with our reproductive endocrinologist right away. And we need to go there and find out what this is about. And how come he never told me? How come he's never told us about this? He's offered us, like, new cycles. He's offered us donor eggs, and that's where it ended.
Right.
And so we show up to the office, and I'm like, oh, doctor, I was like, do you do embryo donation? And he said, yes. And I was like, oh my goodness, well, you need to tell me all about this. And we just kind of like sucked up the information. My husband and I looked at each other, and we just knew that it was for us. We knew that it was our next step to creating our family. And basically from there, we just kind of like, we jumped on it. We did all the whatever extra tests that we needed to do. And they gave us profiles of a few different families that had had these embryos up for donation or adoption, however you'd like to call it. And, we read one of the profiles, and we fell in love with the profile of the donors. And we chose, and we were like, we got our little embryo. And I had my first baby at the age of 42. So that's when I had my first daughter, Luna, who's now 3.5. And as soon as I actually had my positive beta, the nurse called me and said, Nancy, there is one of that group left, one embryo left. Do you want it? And we said, oh my goodness, yes. I was only like 2 weeks pregnant, at that
Wow.
point after my transfer. And they were already offering me this next embryo, but it was her biological sibling. So I didn't want to turn that away. And so we jumped on the fact, we were just like, yes, please give it to us. We'll take it. I don't know when I'm going to have this baby because I'm just 2 weeks, 2 weeks into pregnancy right now. But we held on to that. And then I had my second daughter 3 weeks after my 45th birthday, I believe it was. That was January 2020 is when we had my second daughter, Ayla, who is now 19 months old. So
Wow.
that is the actual fertility story, I will say, and how our babies came to be.
And then you also have your own spiritual journey, and your intuitive abilities. And I'd love to hear about that because I'm always
Yeah.
fascinated.
Yeah. So one of the things, like I said, like I became a fertility coach in the midst of going through my own journey. Like I was a health coach. I was helping people with weight loss and simple things like that. And then I got on my journey. Well, I don't want to say simple, but the fertility is a different story.
Yeah.
I started that process of my own, and I think I was in it for a few months, and I said, "Oh my goodness, this needs to be who I talk to. This is where my passion is about, you know, all about fertility." And so that's what I decided to focus on. And so for a while there, I talked a lot about exercise and I talked about egg quality and I talked about all these different things. But I had a secret. I was like hiding stuff in the closet to my people, to my ladies. The stuff that I was doing myself was very, very spiritual. I was
Right.
doing chakra cleansing and I work with crystals and I was talking to my spirit baby and I was
I
doing
love it.
all the yeah, I was doing all these things like in the back and I said I don't know if I want to really share with all these women like what I'm doing, and then I said, "Oh my goodness, I need to be me. I need to share what
Right.
I'm doing. I need to share
Totally.
the magic. I
Yep.
need to share why am I able," and I'm not saying, when it came to like going through different transfers and, like say a failed transfer and in between, that is very difficult. That's very hard to go through. And, but I was so being able to stay so strong and so hopeful. Like I never got me down because I
Yeah.
was working on my mindset every single day. Every single day, I would work on manifestation and my belief practices. And I said to myself, oh my God, I need to tell these women what I'm doing that is keeping me maintaining, like being able to be so, I don't say strong because all women are strong, regardless of what you're going through. But I think everyone knows what I'm talking about, just how I was able to maintain this faith. I never said to myself, like, oh, I'm never going to be a mom or this is never going to work out. I never had that in my head. And it's because I did this mindset and this spiritual work all the time. And so little by little, I started to tell people what I was doing. I started to tell them about my mindset work and the spiritual work and all the stuff that I do now, you know. Um, so yeah, it was definitely me coming out of the closet with a lot of
Yeah.
stuff.
Totally. And it's funny because a lot of us can relate that we have something that we're really into, but we're just like, people are just not going to understand. But we'd be surprised at how much people are just like us in the sense that there are people like us that really relate to it, just
Mm-hmm.
like we do. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, there's like people for everybody, but there's always going to be a group of people that really relate to what you're having to say and express, and holding back is actually not doing anybody else any good.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And that's why I was like, okay, I need to share. And as soon as I did, everyone was just like, yes. There were some people that were like, I'm not into this. And and that's okay. There's different things for
Right.
every person.
Yeah.
One way is not the right way. It's whatever
That's
feels
right.
comfortable for you. But so many women were just coming to me, asking me like, how do I do this? How do I work with my energy? How do I do all these things? And so my spiritual story goes back much further than my fertility story. So my spirituality, I would say, and all that stuff of, oracle cards and tarot cards and crystals go back to me being a little girl. I was only maybe 8 years old when I started to connect with spirit. And what I connected with was primarily the spirit of babies,
Wow.
which really just kind of blows me away. Like, as over my life, I'm like, who the heck knew that this would come, that I would be one day working with women, connecting them with their spirit babies.
That's
Like,
incredible.
and this was happening when I was 8 years old. So like I would know things about children that had passed on. I would know that a woman had a miscarriage, even though like I
Oh,
wasn't really
wow.
sure what that was. I would sense these babies around them. I would know friends of friends. Like as getting older, I would know friends of friends that were pregnant. I'd be like, "Hey, is your sister pregnant?" And they'd be like, "Hey, I don't know what the heck you're talking about." And then like 2 days later, they would call me and say, "Oh my goodness, my sister is pregnant." And I would just
Wow.
know, I would sense these things. And so I spent most of my life just really soaking up spirituality and things like that, whether it came to working on my psychic abilities. So I've been working on my psychic abilities since I'm a child. Again, working with the energy of crystals. Then later on into my 30s, I went through, became a Reiki practitioner and then became a Reiki master. So, which Reiki is a type of energy healing. If anyone here listening is not sure what that is, it's a type of energy healing. Um, and so I've been on this journey, this lifelong spiritual journey, I'll say, of just soaking in this knowledge and education, constantly educating myself, and then working on my abilities. Whether, it's psychic abilities or doing the energy work, and things like that. And then building in things like mindset work and manifestation. And so all those things have just been compounding and growing over the last number of years. And then I'm able to share that with my clients, which has been amazing.
Yeah, totally amazing. I'm really into that as well. One of the books that actually changed my life was The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy.
Okay,
I
I
remember
haven't read
reading
it.
that many years ago. Oh my God, it's amazing. And it like really, that was my first initial connection with that. It was right after I also had my period resolved with an acupuncturist. It was kind of like my little pivotal. But that book is incredible because it talks about how we really are magnets. We don't realize that our subconscious mind will do anything that we tell it to do. It will look for anything that we tell it to do, and
Mhm.
it's really is amazing. So how did you figure out how to manifest? Like how did you figure that out in your life, and how were you able to kind of help other people with that?
Well, you just talked about your first book. So my first book in my 30s was The Secret by Rhonda Byrne.
Oh yeah,
And I
it's a
read The
great one.
Secret, and that's what catapulted everything for me. That changed. And that's going back to when I was like, I guess, 35 years old. So 30, 35 years old. So we're going back about 15 years is when I started really doing conscious manifestation,
Hmm.
where I started to learn, like, oh my goodness, okay, if this is what I want, this is what I want to bring into my life, then I need to think about this and I need to be grateful for it instead of thinking like, why am I'm 35? Why don't I have a husband? Why aren't I married? What's wrong? I would constantly ask myself, what's wrong with me? I know I'm a good girl. Like, everyone
Yeah.
tells me you're so nice and sweet. And Nancy, you do all these, you're talented. And I would question myself, like, why am I not married? Why am I not finding this man? And then I started learning about manifesting. I'm like, okay, you know what? I want to manifest the man. And I started working on these things and making basically my list of my dream man. And I would think about him and I'd be like, oh my goodness, this is what he looks like. And this is more, it was his personality. And I would read this list and I would just close my eyes and I'd be like, oh my goodness, yes, like here, he's right here. And I would be so grateful. And a boom. I mean, I
Yeah.
manifested my husband.
Amazing.
I
I love it.
truly did. I manifested my children. Um, and all the little things in between, from a parking spot
Yeah.
to hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've manifested everything in between. And it's just been incredible to be able to do that. And I've forgotten your question because I got so excited.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
you're basically saying it. I mean,
Yeah.
you wrote down a list and the things
Yes.
that you really wanted, and I did the same thing with my husband. It's funny, we have a lot of parallels. I'm also from New York, by the way.
Yes.
Long Island.
Yes. Yes. I'm from Queens. That's great. That's great.
So, but
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it works. It's crazy when you put your. What's interesting too is when you are going through something in your life and you're frustrated about your situation, we just our mind tends to have this negative bias. It's actually very natural and very normal for a lot of people to have. Our initial thing is to want to fix it or focus on what we lack or what we don't have. And it almost takes a little bit of an effort to kind of change it and say, okay, well, focus on what you do want and really see it happening. And it's
Yeah.
also that belief, that really strong faith that it will happen or
Yes.
it has already happened. Because I
Yes.
think that's the trick. It's already happened.
Yes, you could do. I feel like I've done it both ways. I think it depends on what you're manifesting as well. But saying, like, listen, last week, I think I was in my car driving. And one of the things I do often is I say, thank you, thank you, thank you for the unexpected money.
Hmm.
Who doesn't want unexpected money, right? So it's one of the things I do. I'm like, and it's worked before. I said, thank you for this unexpected money. My life is so
It
abundant.
definitely comes in handy when you're doing
Yes,
IVF, that's for
yes,
sure.
right, right. So like here I am, like driving, saying this to my. It's like while I'm driving to the preschool, I, do all these things. I'll do gratefulness practice because I'm a busy woman, so I don't always have time to zen out in the morning. So I do this while I'm driving sometimes, and I list all the things I'm grateful for. And I would say 3 days later, I get an email from a company telling me that I got something from a lawsuit that I had, I don't know, applied for. It was for contact lenses. And here I am. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm sure they'll like send me a $5 check in the mail. I mean, that's still good. I'm looking at my board. Looking at my board because it's on board. I got $484 out of
Oh,
nowhere, just
nice.
out of
That's
nowhere.
great.
So the power of the mind, it's
Mhm.
just incredible. The power of the
It
mind is
really is.
incredible. And we even talk about too, you talk about in neuro linguistic programming and the subconscious mind, the body is like a robot. You know what I mean? It's going to do what the mind says. So
Yeah.
there's so much power. Just like I kept telling myself for 10 years, I'm going to need IVF. I'm going to need IVF.
Mhm.
That was the constant record in my head.
Right.
And that's, for me, that's what happened, because I
Right.
never was able to break that pattern. I didn't have time, I'll say, to break
Mhm.
that pattern for myself.
Right.
But think, if you start thinking opposite of that, whatever you think, if you start imagining pain in your hand enough, saying, I have pain, you'll eventually start to feel that pain.
Yep.
And just in terms, you can also flip that around. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So there's
Absolutely.
just so much going on with the mind. But yeah, but back to manifesting. So that was one of the things too. I say that I manifested my daughters. I really do, um, because I would every day picture my pregnant belly. I picture my belly being full and pregnant. I would see us on the beach. That was one of my favorite things, was seeing me and my two children on the beach with my husband. Now, I didn't have these two children, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that is what I started to do. I'm also about creating space. So I made energetic and
So you
physical
saw two
space.
children before you even knew about the embryo donor.
Yeah, yes.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
pretty
and
cool.
yeah, and I actually was talking in spirit to my first daughter about 8 months before we even knew about embryo adoption. So I
Wow.
was already connecting with my spirit baby and having this conversation with her, this connection with her, and her sending me signs even before we knew about that. Um, even before I was pregnant, we had the extra bedroom in the house, which I said, okay, we had 4 bedrooms,
Hmm.
3 bedrooms. And I said, all right, this is going to be, this my daughter's bedroom. I kept saying daughter. Um, and I bought a teddy bear. I bought like a 5 foot teddy bear, and I put it in there for her, in preparation, even
Mm.
before I was pregnant. And so for me, that's so important for women to create and make that space, that mental space for baby, that physical space for baby, the energetic space for baby was so important, instead of hiding from it. When I
Hmm.
saw a pregnant friend, I'd be like, can I rub your belly? I would love to soak up those pregnant vibes,
Yeah.
those pregnancy vibes, because running away from it for me just made me want to hide from it. And so I
Mm.
knew I needed to get into the energy to
Yeah.
receive the energy. So that was a big thing too.
That is a big thing. That's actually a huge it's a huge perspective shift because a lot of times what you just said about having a room and getting a teddy bear, people are afraid to do that. They think that if they do that, they're going to jinx themselves, they're going to get disappointed. People are really afraid to do that. People are even afraid, and I know sometimes I'll talk to my patients and I tell them, write a letter, even if it's a loss, write a letter to your child, or write a letter to the child that you're bringing in. If they haven't lost and they're just trying to get pregnant, just write a letter. And many times they'll cry, and it's a good thing. I see it as a good thing. It opens up a lot of emotions, and that's okay because it's important to release. But many times they have a hard time doing that. There's this fear of allowing themselves to be vulnerable to the idea of something they want so badly because they're afraid of getting disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, excuse me, that is, you know, it's hard. And I definitely understand it. I definitely understand that, because I remember early on in the fertility journey, especially when I was going through that first like 1 or 2 cycles, like I didn't even want to look at a baby. I
Hmm.
was like, oh, let me not look. There's almost this fear
Hmm.
of success
Yeah.
too. It's not even fear of failure. It's like this fear of success as well, of it actually happening, which is an interesting concept. But then I realized that was, for me energetically, and for myself and for what I see in other women, is that it really separates the heart chakra and the sacral chakra. And that
Hmm.
sacral chakra, if anyone doesn't know, that's where your sacrum is, that's where your
That's your
uterus
womb.
is. Yes,
Yeah.
your womb. And so there becomes this separation in the body from the heart protecting itself. The heart
Hmm.
wants to just protect itself, and it separates itself from that sacral chakra,
Hmm.
because, and which is crazy, because you want so badly to be pregnant, but instead you're cutting it off.
Yeah.
You're cutting it off. And trust me, and I understand that it's hard, especially after continual loss. That's very, very difficult for a woman. But
Yeah.
I'm just always encouraging keeping that open, keeping that pathway open between the heart and the sacrum. And so that you're not shying away from everything, that you're not hiding from it. Two, the subconscious mind likes these messages, it likes the subliminal things. So seeing that teddy bear, even when I would walk by the room, even if I caught it in the corner of my eye, I may not have been thinking about my having a baby or being pregnant, but in my brain, in the background, in that subconscious mind that's kind of sleeping back there, it was getting in there. I would see the room, I would see the teddy bear. And in my
Yeah.
brain was telling me, okay, that's for baby. That space is for baby. And
Hmm.
then that all starts to work with your conscious thoughts. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it all works together.
It does. It does 100%. And I think there's so many different things came to my mind as you were talking. One of the things actually that I found so intriguing, and I don't remember, I think it was a book that I read, must have been a book, and then somebody had probably spoken about this, but they were talking about the power of the mind and just thinking about a lemon. They were saying just visualize a lemon, squeeze it into your mouth, like really feel that sour lemon, and then you're salivating and you feel it juicy, and then literally everybody, he asked if everybody salivated, and almost everybody salivated just by thinking about it. And they're
Mm-hmm.
like, well, do you have a lemon? Why did you salivate? What made you physically respond to having a lemon that you didn't even have, that you just thought about? And it's incredible how your body responds. It really does. It kind of opens up and responds just by thinking alone.
Yes, yes. We were actually doing that today in one of a class that I was taking. So we were talking about the lemon thing.
So
And I'm,
that's no coincidence, by
yeah,
the way.
no.
It's all alignment.
Yes,
And
yes. So we were talking about
this
that
is why
today.
you had to come on today and not
I
any other day.
know, I know, I know. It's so funny. And I've used the lemon test, called the lemon test, when you do hypnosis, because I'm in the
Yeah.
middle of getting my hypnotherapy practitioner certification.
Hmm.
So doing something like that, like the lemon test, it just shows how powerful, and again, how the body is like a robot. It does what
Yeah.
the mind thinks.
Right.
So if we think these thoughts of like, yes, my body can get pregnant, yes,
Hmm.
like all these things, and you start talking to your womb and your heart and connecting these areas, like consciously connecting them, the body follows, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? The body follows, and we've seen it. I've seen the proof. I've seen the proof in it of women that have done it, that women in older, over 40, getting pregnant, that it's not impossible, that it is possible,
Yeah.
with doing all these, doing all these things. And of course, taking care of yourself as well is
Mhm.
not to be put to the wayside, but
Of course.
there's so much can be done through the power of the mind. It's incredible.
It is. It is. It really is amazing. And but so you've studied hypnotherapy and you work on hypnotherapy with your clients?
I am in the process right now. So I'm in the middle of my certification. I'm doing neuro linguistic programming,
Hmm.
NLP, that is rewiring the brain and its thoughts through language. I am doing EFT, so I can teach tapping, which is emotional freedom technique. And then
Yeah.
I'm also getting
Amazing.
my, yeah, and I'm getting also my hypnotherapy practitioner certification.
That's wonderful.
So which is just really exciting, because tapping into that subconscious mind, that's where all those little things hide. That's
Yeah.
where the things that prevent us, from doing the things that we want to do, from believing in the things that we want to believe, is hiding in this subconscious mind. And so being able to do things just like a 30-minute hypnotherapy session
Yeah.
can really help you break through like so many limiting beliefs. So that's another thing with mindset. There may be certain things that you want, like you want to have a baby, or whatever it is that you want to do. You want to find, get married, you want to find a different career, but the subconscious has these other thoughts of, well, I'm not really worthy. Well, I don't think I could ever make more than $50,000 a year, or that's not
Hmm.
possible, or how will I have the time, or, will I, maybe I had a really hard upbringing. Maybe I'm going to be, I'm worried I'm going to be like my mom or my
Hmm.
dad, and all these little things. So, our subconscious mind is like stopping us from really achieving what our conscious mind wants. And
Right.
so it's so important to dig into stuff like limiting beliefs, what's really going on in the background in terms,
Yeah.
and what's kind of contradicting the thing that you really do want to bring into your life.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's so much around that.
What's interesting too, and I find this a lot with wanting babies or feeling that urge to have a child, I feel like it's kind of like a double communication with the spirit baby. I feel like you're being called upon, that it's not just a random urge or desire, and just because it's many years doesn't mean that it's never going to happen. I feel like it's a calling of sorts.
Yes, I would definitely say yes. There are spirit babies that have been hanging around their parents or to be parents for
Hmm.
20 years, like that they saw their child when they were a child or a teenager. You know what I mean? Or, there are some children that come in later. There are some that are hanging, that have been around you and are waiting to come in. There are some that will come in right away, and some that won't. Um, Sometimes they leave, sometimes they switch out with others, they come back. There's
Hmm.
so much going on the other
Yeah.
side. And I humbly say that because I'm just like just a human. And people like me, and spirit Kelly Meehan, if anyone knows about her, the spirit baby medium. We know what we know from our experiences, but we don't know everything. We
Hmm.
only go by what we've experienced or what our clients have experienced. um, and yes, it is that calling, and there's that divine timing too that has to come in. Now, if you look at my children, my two girls, um, when my husband and I got married, we lived in New Jersey, and we randomly decided to move to Georgia, kind of random.
Hmm.
We kind of wanted to move further south, to be a little bit closer to his parents in Myrtle Beach, where I am now. And we moved to Alpharetta, Georgia. And we didn't know anybody. There really wasn't anything going on there. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, and now in hindsight, I realized, like, here are my two daughters were in a lab in
Wow,
Georgia
that's insane.
for 13 years. They were frozen.
Wow.
Oh,
Oh
that's
my
the other, yeah.
God.
They were frozen there for 13 years. And
That's incredible.
yeah, so it's like hindsight. I'm like, the reason we went to Georgia is to pick up our
Wow,
babies.
that's a miracle. Oh my God, how
Yeah,
amazing. I just got the goosebumps.
yeah. So, it's just like, it's just, you look at those things, and I know it's hard to see it when it hasn't happened yet,
Yeah.
but afterwards you're like, oh my goodness, this is the reason why. I have a really great friend of mine who was getting ready to have her she was ready getting laying down on the bed to have her egg retrieval, and she was about to do the anesthesia or something. Like, this is a really dramatic story, and she was getting in pre-op, and she said no. She all of a sudden jumped up and said, no, I can't do this. I don't want to do this.
Hmm.
And like right in the middle, right before her egg retrieval. And I think it was like, I don't know how long later it was, she winds up choosing adoption. So she
Hmm.
winds up choosing an adoption for a little girl in China, and she was born exactly on the day that she was going to have her egg retrieval.
What?
Yes.
Oh
So
my
she was
God, I just
born
got the
on
chills
that
again.
day. Right. She was born
Wow.
on that day. So you can't tell me. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
tell me that there is no rhyme or reason to this, because there
Yeah.
is. It
Yeah.
goes so much deeper than we can even imagine. These two families, that little girl and Robin, they were meant to be together. They were
Yeah.
meant to be together. And
Yeah.
well, I got the chills now. That
Yeah.
I love that story so much. Like, it blew her mind.
That's
I mean, what would be the
incredible.
reason for her to like jump out of a hospital bed and say, no, I don't want to do this?
Yeah.
And then look at that. So there's so much going on in the
Yeah.
spirit world, and that energy and stuff like that. And like you said, there are so many stories and things that we'll never truly understand, 100%. Why are some people adopted? Why do some women give up their child for adoption? why
Hmm.
why are some born through IVF, or
Right.
an egg donor is used, or a sperm donor is used?
Yeah.
I think it's deeper than what we may
Then
look
the
at it on the
how.
surface. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the how.
Wow, it's incredible. I mean, there's just so much, and it's true. Sometimes we get these incredible signs, and those signs are just like, they're beyond odds. I mean, you're just like, there's no way that
Right.
this would just be a coincidence. And I think that that's what makes them signs. That's what
Yes.
makes them not random,
Right.
because they're so specific. And I mean, it's like
Yeah.
it's such an incredible like alignment that happens. Um, but I guess what my question is how does one get to the point? Because I think that if you do get into the alignment of your soul, of your own soul and your highest self and your own intuition, that soothes this whole unknown, because you're going through this unknown journey and you're so full of fear because you just don't know what's going to happen. And having that intuition or those signs is so comforting, because you know you're on some kind of path. And how does one get to that place? Because I think that when you're going through the fertility journey, for the majority of people, they're constantly getting bombarded with opinions and ideas, and it throws them out of their core and center just by nature. So, how does one find that again?
Yeah, I definitely think, like you said, they're just like, you become out of alignment. You just get kind of lost, or a doctor can tell you something, and then that's all you believe anymore. You
Right.
believe this negativity. So
Yeah.
it's like, how do you get back to yourself? I think one of the most important things is keeping an open mind. Like, so having an open mind about the subject. So if it is like connecting with your spirit baby,
Hmm.
taking time to really connect with your intuition. A lot of women, we're taught like to kind of, you know, our intuition is not as strong as it was thousands and thousands, years ago.
We had
We've
less
kind of like,
distractions
yes,
too. Yeah.
right. Well, we
Yeah.
weren't like running away from
Right.
bears or something.
Yeah.
um so we have to get back in touch with that intuition. And
Yeah.
how do you do that? It's about, taking the time to quiet yourself, to connect with your heart, to ask yourself, how do I feel about XYZ? What do I feel when I think about, trying naturally? How do I feel when I think about using an egg donor? How do I feel? Even with simple things like in your home, like even picking a piece of fruit, like at the supermarket, you're
Mhm.
choosing something very specifically because you're using your intuition of like, okay, yes, this one feels good to me. This one looks and feels good. Um, when you're in, what I mean, if there's a place where you feel uncomfortable, you rely on that sense. You can rely on that sense, that intuition of, what, this doesn't feel right, or you walk into a room and you see two people talking, and all of a sudden you feel the energy, whether it's a nervous energy, or maybe two people were fighting, or whatever that may be. So you start to try to pay attention to those things in your different senses, and getting back into that for yourself, and asking yourself the questions. Well, how do I feel about this? And then paying attention to that gut reaction. You know what I mean? Is it a yes? Is it a no?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when things are coming, all that fearful stuff, a lot of the time, that's like that ego talking. You know what I mean? So it's just trying to getting back into that intuition, and then opening yourself up. So reading different, listening to podcasts about certain things, learning more about the subject. You have different books like, where are we? Spirit Babies by Walter McKitchen.
Yeah.
What does your spirit baby need you to know? There's many different books. So once you start tapping in and opening your mind to the subject, things start to become more aware for you.
Yeah.
And you're telling your mind, saying, yes, I want to open up my mind to this. And then working on the different ways to connect. So, I have a bunch of different, I know some YouTube videos on it, of connecting with your spirit baby, asking for signs, asking for their name, sitting quietly in meditation. So it may start a little bit different, where, if you're just new to this, maybe you do ask for a sign saying, are you there? What's your name? And then you start to see those things. And then as you get deeper into that relationship, you could have actual conversation with them, like I did with my first daughter. Like, she was a sassy little thing. Like, she told me her middle name. Like, she just had all these things. And so it was very easy to connect with her. So just trusting in that it is possible is important. But also taking the time to actually quiet down and connect. It's not just always just going to happen, randomly on its own, but really taking the time to connect to that other channel. The spirit world is right next to us. It's not like a million miles away.
Right.
It's not up in the sky. It's right here. It's just like, one of my favorite medium friends, she says, it's just like a radio station. You have that in like the AM, and you have the fuzziness, and then you have the good channel and fuzziness. You just need to turn your dial a little bit, so that you can start to hear and start to sense and feel that connection, that spiritual connection.
I love it. And I think we all can do that. I think it's something that we all innately have. I think some people have this preconceived idea that like only some people are born with this gift. And then you talk to some psychics and they'll say any gift that anybody has been like practiced throughout lifetimes. So like an artist comes in born with an artist gift, and it's because they've practiced this for lifetimes. So anything you choose to put your intention to, you can get better at. And I love your story in the sense that you had said that for many years you kept affirming the IVF route. And you were saying, but what's interesting is you didn't identify as a person that affirmed the wrong things. You just said, okay, that was something that I did. Now let me do this. But what's amazing about it is it was kind of part of the plan, wasn't it? Because you ended up with your two beautiful girls just because of that path.
That's right. That's right. I wouldn't be here without that. You know what I mean? It just, like I said, it's easier too, because I have been through it. So I'm able to look backwards. You know what I mean? Yeah, but just going back to the intuition thing again too, it's a matter of, of trusting yourself, and listening to yourself. And, you talked about the abilities. We all have this. It is a muscle. It is exactly like going to the gym. If you go to the gym one day, I mean, it's not really going to do much. If you go to the gym for 3 months, that muscles are going to grow, and and the intuition is just like a muscle. It needs the connecting with the spirit world is just like a muscle. Some people may have, like me, I have a lifetime of, using it, but there's people that open up their spirituality at 40, 50 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And all of a sudden they become a medium, or
Right.
they become, they're extremely psychic, or, somebody passes away and it just unlocks everything.
Yeah.
And it's where you want to take it. It's what, how you want to bring that into your life. On whatever level that may be. If it's just talking to your spirit babies, then so be it. If it's just connecting with yourself on a spiritual level, then that's wonderful too. It's all what fits for that person
Yeah.
and what feels good.
Right. And so looking back when you spoke to your daughter, do you see similar traits and personality that you picked up when she was coming to you as a spirit baby?
Yes, yes. Well, there are certain things. I mean, I don't know, maybe all 3.5-year-olds are sassy. So they probably are. But there's just things about her that are so familiar to me. They are
Yeah.
so familiar, just her spirit and just the way she looks. I remember in my 20s, I saw a little spirit baby girl. Um, and she had blue eyes. And I was like, that's weird. I don't have blue eyes. I have brown eyes. Like, she's going to have brown eyes. But this is my two little babies have blonde hair and blue eyes. Right? Blonde hair, blue eyes. Yeah. Sometimes I
Yeah.
say blue hair, blonde eyes. I get confused. Um,
It'd be interesting.
yeah. So there are a lot of things like that. Is also what's incredible is her personality. I think there's a lot of fear, and this could be a whole other podcast. There's a lot of fear sometimes when you have a donor, whether it's a sperm, egg, or both donor, that that child is not going to feel like your child, or you're going to feel like this really great separation,
Hmm.
because they are not yours genetically.
Hmm.
These two girls cannot be more like me. Okay. Like, I'm a kid. What's funny is that my first daughter is a Capricorn and I'm a Capricorn as
I'm a
well.
Capricorn too.
Yeah, oh my goodness. And I said, I was like, Chris, she's going to be real. As Chris is my husband, I said, she's going to be serious. She's going to
Uh-huh.
have like this real serious aspect to her. And it's funny because that's exactly what she has. She's like
Yeah.
really serious. And I remember like telling him about stories of me from being like kindergarten and not smiling in any of my pictures and being
That's
very
so funny. I
serious.
was the same way.
And everyone's like, Nancy, how come I remember in kindergarten, Nancy, how come you didn't smile? And I was like, I just wanted a serious picture. So she's like she's a rule follower. She likes everything in place. Like if
Yeah.
things are out of place, she gets very upset.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
there's
cute.
so many things about her that just feel like me, and like that I just know her, and the things that they say. And then the little one is completely wacky. And I'm like that too. I'm like a Kramer. Sometimes I call myself a female Kramer from Seinfeld.
Mhm.
Just this wackiness. And she has that. So it's just incredible to see them and how they are, and then how they are your baby. Like
Yeah.
they are my children through and through and through. And it's just incredible.
That's amazing. I love it. I really love your story. First of all, I really like you a lot. I just like, I knew I'd like you. This is the first time we're actually meeting.
Yes, yes.
And I'm like, oh, cool. And it's funny. Yeah. I was just actually thinking the other day, it was a couple of days ago, and I was laughing to myself because my parents always used to laugh. There's this one picture of me when I was little, and I had the most serious face. I looked mad, but it was just the way I looked in pictures. It's really like no other kids like that.
No. I need to find this picture now and I need to send it to you. I still have it, of
It's
course.
really
It's just
funny.
really, I'm going to find it and send it to you. It's really funny.
It's so funny. So if people want to work with you, how can they find you?
Yeah. So my best place is on Instagram, and I'm at Nancy Weiss Fertility Coach. I have lots of content there about, different things, mostly all about spiritual subjects, because that's what I focus on. I talk about mindset. I talk about manifestation. I talk about crystals. I talk about energy. I talk about chakras. I talk about all different stuff like that. And right now, just in August, I opened up a monthly membership called the Sacred Goddess Circle, where is basically I'm just giving all of my years of spiritual knowledge for any women going through fertility issues or not, and just want to soak up fertility, soak up spirituality. They want to learn about being an empath. They want to learn about how to use crystals. They want to learn about limiting beliefs. Like, I am throwing it all into this membership. So that is what I am pretty much doing right now. And then my schedule is a little closed right now, but I do one-on-one energy healing and like clairvoyant, well, they're psychic energy healing sessions. So that is always awesome. My clients love those so much, where we just get to tap into their energy. I receive these beautiful intuitive messages, and I'm able to pass that on to them so that they can see, like, okay, where can I, how can I improve with what I'm going through right now? How can I help my emotional state? How can I help my physical state? So that's where I'm at.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nancy. I knew I was going to love talking to you, and it was
Mhm.
such a great conversation. I feel like I want to come have you back because I'm sure we could talk about so much more.
Yes.
So, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much. It was so wonderful. I'm so excited and so happy to be here.